Hello everyone. Today we are going to report what people say or change sentence from direct to indirect speech. When reporting speech, the tense usually changes. This is because when we use reported speech, we are usually talking about a time in the past, because obviously the person who spoke originally spoke in the past. The verbs, therefore, usually have to be in the past tense too. The tenses of the reported clause are usually moved back. This moving back of tenses is called back shift. Let's look at the changes that happen to the tense. You have to note that the past perfect simple and past perfect continuous do not change, since no back shift is possible. Here are also the changes that happen to modal. And you should note that past modals are unchanged. Here we have some examples. With present simple tense, she said it's cold. If you are going to change it into indirect speech or reported speech, the sentence will be she said it was cold. Present continuous, for example, she said I am teaching English online. If you are going to change this sentence into indirect speech, it's changed into past continuous, so she said she was teaching English online. For present perfect, she said I have been on the web since 1999. For indirect speech, it's changed into past perfect. She said she had been on the web since 1999. For past simple tense, she said, I taught online yesterday. And if you are going to change it into indirect speech, it's changed into past perfect. So she said she had taught online yesterday. Past continuous, she said I was teaching earlier. After changing it, she said she had been teaching earlier. Past perfect, she said the lesson had already started when he arrived. If you are going to change it into indirect speech, there will not be any change in the verb tense. So the sentence will remain as it is. For modals, I can, I will, I might see later, he said. After changing it to reported speech, he said he could, or would, or might see me later. Let's move to changing the pronouns. Pronoun change or not, depending on the view of the reporter. If we are going to change from direct speech into indirect speech, then we have I usually changes to he or she, me it changes to him or her, my, his or her, we changes into they, us will be them, and ours their. For example, John said, I am coming. If we are going to change it, it will be John said that he was coming. So we changed the I into he because of course the speaker is John. Other changes involved may be in relation to time and place. So, for time expression, now changes into then, today, that day, tonight, that night, yesterday, the day before, tomorrow, the following day or the next day, week, month, year, will be the following day, week, month, year. For place expression, here, there, this, that, these, those. For example, John said, I did this exercise last night. After changing it into indirect speech, the sentence will be, John said that he had done that exercise the previous night. For changing conditional statements, these sentences are changed into indirect speech as follows. Type 1 conditional statements are reported as follows. If you pass your test, I'll buy you a car, he said. He said that if I passed my test, he would buy me a car. For type 2, if you passed your test, I would buy you a car, he said. He said that if I passed my test, he would buy me a car. So there is no change for type 2. For type 3, if you had passed your test, I would have bought you a car, he said. He said that if I had passed my test, he would have bought me a car. Also, there is no changes in relation to the tenses. For exclamations, note the word order in reported exclamations. What a silly boy you are, she exclaimed. She told him what a silly boy he was. She told him that he was a silly boy. So we have two ways to change exclamations. You can change as the first example without making changes in the word order, or you can change the word order as in the second sentence. Form of indirect statement with mixed tense sequences. I have read Tony's book and I don't understand it. If you are going to change this sentence into indirect speech, you have to note that there is more than one tense in the same sentence. So you can change it as follows. James says that he has read Tony's book and didn't understand it. Jim said he has read Tony's book and doesn't understand it. Or you can say that Jim said he had read Tony's book and doesn't understand it. Or you can choose the last example or the last way to change it into reported speech by saying that Jim said that he had read Tony's book and didn't understand it. So we change all the tenses into past simple. What about yes/no questions? For yes-no questions, we usually use if or whether in the indirect speech. Let's look at the following steps. The question sentence of the indirect speech is firstly changed to be statement. So for example, if you have this sentence, do you usually take a nap? Then if you are going to change it into indirect speech, you have to change it into a statement, a normal statement. You usually take a nap. And then you can change it into indirect speech. So it will be as follows. Doctor asks if or whether I usually take a nap. Other examples with verb to be. Are you ready? If you are going to change it into indirect speech, he asked me if whether I am or I was ready. You have other examples with verb to have, to do, and modals. Now let's move to indirect question word questions, or the questions that start with a question word. Question words are usually as follows: what, when, where, which, why, who, whom. You can use them as conjunctions, but after you change the sentence or the question into a sentence. If the question starts with where, then we are going to use it to join the two sentences. For example, where are you going? He asked me where I was going. With verb to have, why haven't you finished? He wanted to know why I hadn't finished. What do you think of it? He wanted to know what I thought of it. When must I be there? He asked me when he must be or had to be there. Here are other questions which are called subject questions. For actually spoken questions, who is in charge here? And is usually changed into indirect speech or indirect questions as follows. He asked me who was in charge here. For present, which firm makes these parts? He asked me which firm made those parts.